going to be starting off my Best in Beauty for the year of 2021, and today we are going to be going through primers, foundations, concealers, and powders. There's not too many products here, but for me, I like to break down my products into categories where I do face products, cheek products, lip products, and other eye products. So I usually do 4 separate videos every time. That's just how I've been doing it for the past few years at this point. So we're just going to start off with primers, because of course primers is what we start out with in our makeup routine. And I'm going to tell you guys the 3 primers that I used the absolute most this year and I pretty much loved. So my number 1 most used primer, and I just think that this might be my holy grail primer ever, I just love this primer so much, is the Milk Hydro Grip Primer. Now, I did pick this up, I believe, in the beginning of 2021. I think around during the time of the VIB sale, because I don't remember picking... Actually, I picked up the mini last year, and I loved the mini so much that I went ahead and picked up the full size. That's what I did. And this is just the best primer I've ever used, because it really just makes your foundation just grip on to the primer, and this really just makes it adhere to the skin without being sticky. And this works with absolutely every single foundation, tinted moisturizer, anything that I use, and it doesn't feel heavy or make the foundation feel cakey or sticky in any sort of way. If you guys think that gripping primer means that it would be sticky, it's not. It really is a hydrating sticky primer. It just sinks into the skin and hydrates the skin so nicely before you put foundation on that I love this, and I would recommend this for any skin type. I think it works for all skin types, to be honest, and I love it. And as you guys can see, I've used it a ton, and it's really, really good. So this is definitely my most used primer. I use it every time I do my makeup for work, or if I need to wear my face makeup for a long period of time, which isn't too often anymore, because let's get real, we're not really going out too often because of COVID anymore. But if I need something to last all day, it's going to be this guy. So that is the first primer. And then the other primer that I absolutely fell in love with, I love using this primer for everyday use. But I also like using it underneath for like some days where I'm just doing my makeup to see my friends for a couple of hours. And this is the NYX Marshmallow Primer. Now this was a super hyped up primer on TikTok, and usually I'm not the one to follow like TikTok trends. The reason why I got this was because of 2 of my YouTube friends raved about this, Debutante and Allie. No, not Allie. Allie got convinced to buy this because of Max. Max is Allie's best friend. So Debutante, my dear friend Debbie, and Max convinced me to buy this primer. Just so you know, this is a very pricey drugstore primer. I don't know where NYX and L'Oreal and Maybelline are getting these prices from, but this is like $16 for this primer. I think when I actually run out of this and decide whether or not I want to repurchase it, I'm going to get the smaller one. That's probably like $10, which I still think it's a little bit pricey. You could get a Wet n Wild or even a Colourpop primer for less money. But I don't think this is worth $16, to be honest. But the primer is so nice, you guys. First off, it smells like freaking marshmallow candy. It smells amazing. I love it. And it has like this super moisturizing consistency without being like a foaming primer. And it just feels so nice on the skin. And I just love how it feels on my skin before I put foundation on. And it has such a beautiful, like, smoothing, brightening effect when you apply your foundation, when you apply it and then you put your foundation on. But I find that it brightens my skin so beautifully before I put the foundation on. And it makes my skin look so pretty. But it just has this beautiful brightening factor before I put my foundation on. So I really, really like it. Hold on one second. Sorry, my boyfriend was texting me. But yeah, love this product, and I think it's really worth it. If you want to try this, I think it's worth the hype. Some people didn't think it did anything, but I really like this. So yeah, I really, really like it. It's definitely my favorite drugstore primer I tried this year. I really just didn't try too many primers this year. I really don't get too crazy with primers. I just pick, hold on one second. I'm going to send this to my sister. This is actually something she should know. That's interesting. Okay, sorry. I'm getting distracted. And then the third primer, and the only other primer I tried this year, was the Colourpop Pretty Fresh Hydrolonic Acid Primer. I really, really liked this, and as you guys can see, I'm almost finished with it, but you can tell that it kind of looks a little bit gross. I don't think that this was the freshest product when I got it, but it hasn't like broken out my skin or made it itchy or anything like that. I just thought it smelled a bit old when I first got it, but if I shake it up, usually it helps warm up the product, and it seems to be okay. But I really like how hydrating this is on my skin, and I really like how it makes my skin feel when I apply my tinted moisturizer, because I usually only use this with a tinted moisturizer, and it really helps add hydration to the skin before I use like a tinted moisturizer, because sometimes they can feel thick and a bit sticky on the skin because they have a bit of more of like a thicker consistency than foundation sometimes. But I find that this really helps hydrate your skin way more when you use this first. So those were really the only three primers. And then the one prep spray that I've just been absolutely raving about all year is the MAC Fix Plus Cucumber Spray. I just love this because I love the scent of this. It's not a overwhelming scent. It just smells really refreshing and good. And I think it's because it's a cucumber scent. It's just not too overwhelming, and I just freaking love how it smells. It smells very similar to my #1 setting spray that I used this year. Of course, you guys know I love the Pretty Fresh spray by Colourpop, which is also one of my favorite products in the Pretty Fresh line from them. As you guys can see, I'm almost completely done with this one. I'm probably going to repurchase this one when I run out. This is my daily setting spray that I use when I don't work because it's super hydrating. It smells amazing, and I love it. And then the one that I use for work, and I have just fallen in love with this one. These are the most hydrating sprays I've ever used before, because for me, I have very dry skin, and my skin can get very dry, especially when I'm wearing a mask all day. And I find that this one is the only one that adds super hydration to my skin after I've been wearing a mask. And this is the Milk Hydro Grip setting spray. So I love the primer, and I fell in love with the setting spray. As you guys can see, I'm almost done with this one as well. But most of these setting sprays claim that they're super hydrating, but they make my skin feel like they like set the makeup more, which makes it feel more dry than actually hydrating. And I feel like with this, it does both. But I've never tried like a setting spray that is this hydrating, but also really sets my makeup really well too. So I freaking love this. Milk just killed it with this line. So I think that they have amazing products, and I've just been loving this one all year. It's just so hydrating on the skin, and I can't rave about it enough. I cannot wait to pick up another one, but they are out of stock right now, but I really want to repurchase it. Okay, now let's get into tinted moisturizers, because let's get real, there wasn't really any new foundations that I tried this year. I tried a ton of tinted moisturizers because tinted moisturizers were really making a huge comeback this year. I don't know why all of a sudden in 2021 people discovered tinted moisturizers, but I tried 6 different ones, and I'm going to tell you guys which ones were my favorites. These are pretty much all a favorite because I loved every single one. I think my top 3, oh, this is hard because they were all really good. These are definitely my top picks. So the first one is the Fenty Beauty Easy Skin Tint. This is my favorite complexion product that Fenty Beauty has ever done. I wasn't really a huge fan of the matte foundation. I thought that was way too drying on my skin. I also love the Fenty Beauty primer as well. These two together, so good. But I love this so much more than the hydrating foundation as well. This just looks so good on the skin. It performs like a lightweight foundation. It just works. It's just so easy to use. It adds like a beautiful coverage to the skin. It's not really like a tinted moisturizer, and it's not too liquidy either. It has like this perfect hydrating consistency, and this was one of the most raved about tinted moisturizers of the year for a reason. It's really, really amazing. If you guys have not tried Fenty Beauty's complexion products, I would definitely recommend this one, because I think that this one, again, is the best one she came out with. It just feels amazing on the skin. It doesn't feel sticky like a typical tinted moisturizer. It just feels so good, and it makes your skin look beautiful and healthy, and I love it. I've been using this so much since I picked it up, and I love it. So definitely love that. And then I think my other tip-top favorite would be the Urban Decay Stay Naked Hydra Maniac Tinted Glow Hydrator. I used this for like a straight week when I first got it. I loved this so much. I also used this about 3 or 4 times when I first got it. But this, I was obsessed with this summer. It just feels amazing on the skin. Again, this one's probably the thickest in consistency, but after you blend it out, you don't feel that thickness anymore. And this has a really good coverage for being a tinted moisturizer, and it's just so hydrating on the skin, and it looks amazing. Again, it makes your skin look so healthy. But in the summertime is when I love using this the most. So yeah, I have been obsessed with this, and I use it from time to time still in the winter time because my skin can get really dry in the winter time as well. So I love using this as well in the cold months too, and I love it just as much. And it just looks, again, amazing on the skin. So I love that. And then the next one, it's very hard to pick between these two. I love both of them, but I'm just going to say my favorites. So the next one that's one of my absolute favorites is the Tower 28 Sunny Days Broad Spectrum SPF 30 Tinted Sunscreen. Oh my god, you guys, this is so amazing. Again, does not feel like a typical tinted moisturizer like the Urban Decay one does. This has a very liquidy consistency, that much more liquidy than this. But it just feels so hydrating on the skin and makes, again, the skin look beautiful. The Fenty Beauty is definitely thicker than this as well, but it's not like runny. It's just like liquidy in like a very hydrating kind of way. And again, it makes the skin look amazing. I have been obsessed with this ever since I got it as well. I actually wasn't going to pick this up because I was going to pick this up more so during like the spring VIB sale next year, because I was like, I already had picked up too many tinted moisturizers this year. But I decided to give it a go when I was at Sephora this year, because I was like, I didn't really pick up too many foundation products this year, and I love using this as a lightweight foundation because honestly it has enough coverage to be like a lightweight foundation, and I love it. Honestly, I feel like tinted moisturizers really stepped it up this year, and these were all such good options, and if you guys are looking for a good one, these are all great. And then the next one is one of the drugstore options here. I have 2. So the first one is the NYX Bear With Me Tinted Skin Veil. Oh my god, I love this one too. I used this one so much too. When I got it, I used it at least like 4 days in a row. And again, this just makes the skin look so good. It has the perfect amount of coverage. I feel like this is kind of a good dupe for this. I feel like these are very similar in consistency. They both have a very creamy feeling to them, not too liquidy at all. But yeah, if you love the Fenty Beauty, I don't think you would dislike this. I think that this is really, really nice. Again, makes the skin look gorgeous, and I have just been obsessed the way that this makes my skin look, and it like makes it look healthy in a very velvety kind of way, and I love it. I got turned on to this because of Allie, and she definitely did not steer me wrong. I think that this is a beautiful product. And yeah, I love it. So, but definitely like some of the like coinciding concealers that these brands come out with are definitely more full coverage than the actual tinted moisturizer. So just keep that in mind. And then the other tinted moisturizer from the drugstore that I really love is the Wet n Wild Bare Focus Tinted Hydrator Tinted Skin Veil. And the reason why I tried this was because I saw in a couple of YouTube comments, I think on Angelica Nyquist's video, that they were saying that it was a dupe for the Urban Decay Hydra Maniac. So I was so intrigued to try this one because of that, because I fell in love with this one, that I wanted to try this. And I would definitely say that they are different. This one, again, is probably the thickest feeling, but it has more coverage. But this, again, is so good on the skin. Honestly, all of these are just such good tinted moisturizers. I really have had a great experience with all of them. And this one has a lighter coverage than the Urban Decay. It is very hydrating still, and I really, really love it. So, yeah. Also loved this one too. And then the last like tinted moisturizer, which unfortunately you cannot get your hands on anymore because Becca is actually out of business, but I just wanted to say that this was a favorite of mine this year, and that is the Becca Light Shifter Doing Tint Illuminator. Now, at first, I was kind of very hesitant to try this, but I got intrigued and turned on to this because of Angelica Nyquist. She was raving about this, and I'm like, okay, let me try it, because she also was raving about the Fenty Beauty, and she also, I believe, really liked this too. So definitely tried a few recommendations because of her channel. And she said this was like her favorite tinted moisturizer besides the Fenty Beauty. So I tried it, and the only thing is that this is the lightest shade in the range, and it kind of has like a very yellow base to it, but it kind of blends out on the skin because it's a very, very light consistency. This is probably the lightest coverage product out of all of these because it's kind of more of like a illuminator, but it does have pigment to it. So at first, when you first put it on, it's very, very dewy, like illuminating as hell. So I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like this. But then after you put your concealer on and you set it with your powder, it makes your skin look beautiful. Like, just makes it look so healthy and glowy. But after you set it, it just looks so beautiful on the skin. So that's why I've been loving this. Again, when I first applied it, I was a little bit doubtful. I'm like, I don't know if I like this, but it just looks amazing on the skin. But unfortunately, you can't get this anymore. But I would try to find this at Marshall's or TJ Maxx because they've been getting a ton of Becca products there, and they've been getting this in a lot of different shades there I've been seeing. So that is the last tinted moisturizer I have to talk about. And then for new foundations that I tried this year, I only tried 2 new foundations this year. The rest of the foundations that I got this year, actually I forgot one more. But we're going to say that after dinner. I think dinner's ready. Hold on. Okay, so let's start off with this foundation first because I just picked up a mini size of this and it was like $16 or so. But I was kind of intrigued on trying this because I heard so many good things about it, especially from some of my YouTube friends and also some YouTubers that I watch regularly. And this is the Tarte Rainforest of the Sea Hydra Flex Serum Foundation. Now, the reason why I was kind of hesitant to pick this up in the first place is because I thought it was going to be very similar to the Rainforest of the Sea foundation. So that's one of the foundations that I repurchased this year, was the Sea foundation. And then I also repurchased my Lancome Taint Idol and my Anastasia Beverly Hills foundation, which those are foundations I freaking love. That's why I repurchased all three. But these are the only three new foundations that I tried this year, and I ended up really liking all three of them. So this one is good, but honestly, it is super similar to the Rainforest of the Sea foundation. I don't really see much difference other than that this is a little bit more liquidy. But honestly, I swear I think that they're just dupes for each other. So I don't really understand why Tarte came out with two Sea foundations. It's a little bit confusing for the everyday concealer, for the everyday consumer. But I really like this, but I don't think I'm going to repurchase it because I already have the Rainforest of the Sea foundation. So I don't really need this in my collection anymore once I use it up, or once I use up the other one, maybe I'll repurchase this one. But I'm definitely going to use this up first and probably not repurchase it. But it's really nice, very hydrating on the skin. Again, this was really, really great in the summertime because it's super hydrating and it just looks really beautiful and natural on the skin. So I really, really liked that. And then as far as foundations go, the only two foundations I tried this year that were like more full coverage than the Tarte one is the Beauty Blender Bounce Liquid Whip Longwear Foundation. This looks so good on my skin, you guys. This is kind of very similar to the Anastasia and the Lancome. It kind of has the same consistency as those two. Very similar to the Lancome one, actually. But it just looks like whipped goodness on your skin. It has that very creamy consistency, which I seem to like in foundation. So I don't know if that's like the trend that you're seeing, but this is really, really nice on my skin. I know that this foundation got a ton of flack when it first came out, but honestly, you guys, like, there's a lot of brands that do come out with a very lackluster shade range, especially high-end brands. Until they were finally getting called out about it is when they finally expanded their shade range. But this was like a 20 shade range when it first came out, and people were pissed about it. But I found this at Marshall's and I heard some good things about it, so I decided to try it for myself, and I'm like, this is actually really, really good. So I really liked it. I don't think you can get it anymore because I think it went on super sale really fast. That's why I could find it at Marshall's. But I've also been hearing really good things about their new skin tint, so I might possibly pick that up during the next sale. But I don't need any more tinted moisturizers anymore at the moment because, as you guys can see, I have enough. But this is really nice. And then the one and only other foundation I tried this year was from Colourpop, because I always end up loving their foundations and their concealers. I don't know why they only came out with one foundation this year, but this is the Soul Body Face and Body Makeup Foundation. Now, they do claim that this is supposed to be a full coverage foundation, but it's also supposed to be for your body. But I honestly think this is a good medium coverage foundation, so I think that it's a little bit deceiving the way that they market this. This is the lightest shade, which is Fair 2, and the reason why it's darker, it's because I'm thinking that they probably wanted people to use this after they like tan, and they would say that you can use this, like, but at the same time, like, why wouldn't you just make a lighter foundation? Like, for my pale skin, this is not light enough for me. Like, as you can see, it's pretty yellow, but I would never use it on my skin anyway. I got this to use on my face, obviously, and it's really, really nice. I used this a ton when I first got it, and I think it's so nice on the skin. I constantly kept on reaching for it, and it feels really nice. Again, definitely a medium coverage foundation, but it makes my skin look beautiful, so I really, really like this. And then, of course, today I'm wearing their Tinted Moisturizer, the Colourpop one. I love this one. It makes my skin look amazing. And this is just as good. So yeah, that's pretty much it about that. Now let's talk about concealers. Now, I have most of my concealers in front of me that I tried this year, and mostly the ones that I got that were new, I actually ended up really liking. So there's quite a few I have to talk about. I think those are the 6 that I have to talk about. I don't think there's any other new ones in here. And then the only other one I accidentally left in my makeup drawer. So let's just grab that really quick. All these other ones are older ones that I've tried in the past. So we have 7 concealers to talk about. So actually we have 8. We have 8, you guys. So I think my favorite tip top one was the... Oh, wait, hold on. This was definitely my favorite. So the one that is definitely my favorite is the Lancome Taint Idol Ultra Wear All Over Concealer. And this one's in the shade 090. And the reason why I love this so much is because you guys know I freaking love the foundation. It's like my holy grail foundation of life. It's just amazing. But this is very lightweight. But it has like this beautiful light coverage consistency to it, but you can layer it up and it's just so beautiful on the skin, and it also blends out incredibly fast. Like, I barely have to tap my sponge because you guys know I always use a sponge. By the way, I'm wearing my Age Rewind today, and honestly, it's one of the only concealers that doesn't really crease too much underneath my eyes. Yes? Okay. Okay, guys, so I am back from eating dinner, so now we can finish up what my favorite concealers were for 2021. I don't know why there's like a mark here. That's better. Okay, so let's just go ahead and talk about my favorite concealers this year. So like I said, this was one of my favorite concealers that I tried in 2021. I love it. This is probably one of my most used since I picked it up. I've been using it almost every day, especially for work, because it's such an easy, like I said, it's such an easy concealer to just blend out because it's just like boop, 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 done. Like literally just like so easy to blend out with my sponge. So I've been absolutely loving this concealer, and I'm so glad I picked it up. I was between this one or the Dior Skin Concealer during the VIB sale this year, and I decided to pick up this one, and I have no regrets. I love it so much. And then probably my favorite full coverage concealer this year, I actually found this one at Marshall's, and I wanted to try this at the time that it came out, but I didn't want to spend like, I don't know, there's certain brands that I don't want to spend too much money on, like Lancome and Dior. Like, you expect to spend that money because honestly, like, they're high-end brands, but Cover FX is a little bit pricey for what they offer, and I feel like they are still a high-end brand, and honestly, I probably would have paid full price for this because it's so freaking good. So this is the Cover FX Power Play Concealer. Now, this came out, I believe, like 2 years ago, and they had quite a few shades available at my Marshall's. And it has a very interesting applicator with like this ball applicator, and I really like how it applies the product because it really just makes you apply like a couple of dots, because that's really all you need since this is very full coverage. But I like that this has, it doesn't really have like a heavy consistency at all. It's very hydrating, and I don't really have too many concealers like that. I really, really like this. It looks beautiful underneath the eyes and definitely gives me some good coverage, especially when I need it when I don't sleep that great. So I really have been loving this one as well. And again, this has probably been one of my most used concealers for work. And again, it's really easy to use and blend out. So I really love this one. Also, I did get my nails done today. So this is the first video I'm filming with my new nail color. I got like this dark purple shade, and I really, really like how it turned out. Then my other favorite concealer, this was a very unexpected favorite for me, but I think that these are my top 3 concealers this year. I picked this one up just to get a pale concealer for Halloween looks, and I didn't want to spend too much money, so I just picked this up from Wet n Wild. But Wet n Wild is honestly one of the only affordable drugstore brands in the drugstore anymore. Most brands are like getting to be pretty pricey. So I didn't really hear too many people talk about this concealer, but I really like it. So this is the Wet n Wild Mega Last Incognito All Day Full Coverage Concealer. And again, I actually feel like this is not as heavy full coverage as the Cover FX. I think that this has a beautiful coverage to it, and it just blends out so nicely. And again, I feel like this is super hydrating. It does have like a slight scent to it, but I believe that it dissipates as you blend it out. Like, it doesn't really linger on your skin, and I really have been enjoying this. It's one of my most used since I picked it up as well. I used it a lot for Halloween looks because I don't necessarily want to use a super expensive concealer when I'm doing Halloween looks, because like that's what I'll do that day, and then I'll take my makeup off and then that'll be it. So I don't want to waste like super expensive concealers. So I got this one, and I love the original Mega, what is it called? Mega Last Line concealer, the Wet n Wild concealer, the photo focus one. I forgot the name of it for a second. I love that concealer, so I figured I would like this one too, but I didn't think I would like it as much as I thought I would, because I thought it was going to be way more fuller coverage, but it's a really nice coverage, and I really have been loving it. So I really, really like that. How many times can I say really? I don't know. And then one of my other favorites this year is the Kosas Revealer, I cannot read that. Revealer Super Creamy and Brightening Concealer, and this is in the shade 0.5N. I don't think I said any of the shades for anything. I'm in the shade Fair for the Wet n Wild. I'm in the shade N Fair 2 for the Cover FX. And for Lancome, I'm in the shade Ivory Neutral. So this one is also the lightest shade in the line, and I really, really like it. It does definitely have a very creamy consistency to it and very hydrating underneath the skin. I really like using this one for days where I don't want to wear foundation. I really like it as a all over face concealer. It looks really beautiful underneath the eyes. Again, super hydrating. I definitely think this was one of the most talked about concealers in the beauty community, because I really think that this made quite an impression in the YouTube space. It is a really nice concealer, and I think that Kosas definitely made a big name for themselves this year. I mean, they did come out in Sephora. I also have been loving Tower 28 products, so they were definitely my two favorite brands from Sephora this year. I'm tired, but yeah, this is really nice. I don't love how it looks underneath my eye sometimes because it can crease, but it looks really beautiful on the face. It really becomes one with any foundation that you use it with because it's so creamy in consistency and super hydrating and beautiful on the skin. But underneath the eyes, I'm not in love with it, but it is really nice on the face. Then the next one that probably has the most coverage besides the Cover FX is the NYX Born to Glow Radiant Concealer. The reason why I tried this concealer was, again, because of Angelica Nyquist. She raved about this concealer as being her all-time favorite concealer of the year, and I think in her whole collection. And I really like this concealer. I almost feel like this is a dupe for the MAC Pro Longwear concealer. It has a very similar consistency. It definitely has a very full coverage effect. I honestly didn't think it was going to have as much coverage as I thought, because I was like, oh, it's like going to be like a glowy concealer, but it kind of had the same, I kind of had the same reaction as to when I tried the Colourpop Pretty Fresh concealer for the first time. I'm like, this definitely has way more coverage than I thought it would. But it's not thick. It's very creamy. Again, I really just think foundations and concealers have really come a long way. And honestly, I didn't really try a lot that I didn't like. There was only like a couple that I tried this year that I returned like right away. Like the Anastasia concealer. I tried that, returned it like 2 days later. Did not like that concealer underneath my eyes. And I feel like there was a couple of others, but I'm very picky with concealers now, but like I said, I did try quite a few this year, and I really did like this one. And again, I was super intrigued because of Angelica Nyquist, and I do like the sponge applicator on here. I like that it's kind of similar to the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind, and it dispenses the product really nicely, and it blends out beautifully, so I really like that as well. Okay, this next concealer was based solely on the recommendation of Leora Loves Makeup 52. She always raves about this concealer as being like her all-time favorite. And I didn't really think First Aid Beauty would be such a good brand for makeup. But this is by First Aid Beauty, and this is the Hello Fab Beauty. I always say this wrong. Hello Fab Bendy Avocado Concealer. I found this guy at Marshall's as well, so I found it for a pretty good price. So yeah, most of the high-end concealers I try to find them at Marshall's, and I found this guy there, and this one is in the shade 0.5. The NYX Concealer, I'm in the shade Pale. And this one is a really nice everyday concealer. It's definitely not a full coverage concealer, but I feel like this is kind of similar to the consistency of the Kosas concealer. They both have very creamy consistencies. I find that this is just a very easy concealer to use for every day, but I also use it a lot for work as well. And I find that it's just a good concealer to use with any foundation. It's like a good medium coverage, so it works with pretty much anything in my collection. There's some concealers you only want to use with like full coverage foundations because it has a more full coverage consistency, like the Cover FX. Like I wouldn't use this with a tinted moisturizer, but something like this I could use with anything in my collection. I could use it with a tinted moisturizer, I could use it with a foundation, and it's always going to blend really well with the foundation, because sometimes like the Cover FX or like other concealers that are really full coverage will kind of like create that like white circle around here where you can tell that you're wearing concealer. You want to wear something like that with something that has a similar consistency to that. With this, you don't really have to do that. So I really like that. I don't really have to think about what I'm wearing or what foundation I'm wearing. I feel the same about the Wet n Wild one as well. That one's probably even more full coverage than this one. This one I can wear with anything, so I really like that. Okay, then the next one is the Tarte C Hydra Sealer. I always end up loving Tarte's concealers. They have become one of my favorite complexion product brands. I don't really love their powder products, but they make great complexion products, and I love their Rainforest of the Sea line. I've raved about it for years at this point, and this was the concealer that was supposed to replace the Rainforest of the Sea concealer, because you guys know I loved that concealer for a really long time. That was like my favorite concealer. I went through like 2 bottles of that. But this one is actually drier in consistency than the Rainforest of the Sea one. I definitely find that this is way different than the Sea foundation and Rainforest of the Sea foundation. This definitely has a major difference, way more than those, because those like are basically the same to me. So I was kind of expecting the same thing from this, but I think because it's a doe foot applicator, it makes it a little bit drier, but it's still a beautiful concealer, very hydrating. It's not like it's drying, it just has like not as a liquidy consistency as the Rainforest of the Sea one. It's really nice. I really like wearing this for natural makeup days, and yeah, I really have been loving that one. And then the last one is not like my absolute favorite. This is probably the one that is not my favorite out of all of these, but I really like it. But definitely all these concealers impressed me a little bit more than this one, but it's still really good. So this is the Ilia True Skin Serum Concealer. This one, again, I can pretty much wear with anything. It's kind of similar to the Bendy Avocado Concealer in consistency. It's not as creamy as the Kosas or that Bendy Avocado one. It's a little bit drier in consistency. It's nice, but it's not something I'm like head over heels with. It's just like does the job. So it's a good concealer. I find that it looks really nice with, again, more natural makeup days, but I also wear this to work as well. I like it. I'm not like, oh my god, it's amazing, but Ilia was definitely one of my favorite brands this year. And I just wanted to basically give you a roundup of all the concealers I tried, but I really, really like it. So, okay, I've been trying to finish this video for the past like 3 hours at this point because I was on the phone with my boyfriend for like a while. So I just wanted to wrap up with powders, and there's literally only like 3 powders that I'm gonna mention because I only tried one new pressed powder this year because for me, I'm not really a huge purchaser of powders, also because I do have dry skin. But the one and only powder that I tried this year, and I absolutely fell in love with this powder, is the Dior Backstage powder. This powder is fabulous. It's super lightweight on the skin. It is basically putting on like, feels like nothing. It is super silky smooth. It honestly reminds me so much of the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk powder, but this is like $20 less. Honestly, the Dior Backstage line is the more affordable option of Dior. I mean, I'm not saying Dior is affordable, but if you wanted to try Dior, I do think that the blushes are still a little bit overpriced in this line. But as far as a high-end powder goes, this is actually not a bad price. It's like $39, which isn't terrible. And I got this, I believe, in the March VIB sale, and look how much is still left in this. So I feel like you get a ton of product, and I use this basically almost every single day because I love how the way it makes my skin look, and it just is super weightless with every single foundation that I use. And I use this to set my skin. It just looks beautiful. It's such a light velvety veil on the skin, and it feels like nothing, and I absolutely love this powder. So I've been loving this whole year, and again, this was like really the only powder I picked up this year. And then as far as loose powders go, I only got 2. So the first one is the Becca Cosmetics Hydra Mist Setting Powder. I got this at Marshall's, and at first I thought this was supposed to be like a damp powder, and I thought I would feel like the actual like water-like consistency it was supposed to have. But I feel like since this was from Marshall's, it might have gotten a bit dried out. I don't know how old this one was, but now I kind of get why it wasn't like watery, because honestly, it really couldn't be like that because it would probably like not last. So, I thought it was going to have like a damp consistency, but it just has a very hydrating, feeling to it. It doesn't feel like a, heavy powder. It just feels so lightweight and very hydrating on the skin, and I really, really like this. I usually use this for like my daily powder when I'm not working because it's a super lightweight powder, and I love using it for like looks like this today where it's just super light on my skin. So love that. And then the last powder is the Pat McGrath Labs Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Setting Powder, and I have the shade Light Medium 2. In the Becca one, I believe this is just translucent, and then the Dior one is the shade Zero Neutral. And I love this powder, you guys. I really wanted to try some type of high-end loose powder this year, and Pat McGrath has not steered me wrong with basically all of her complexion products. I've been loving everything that I've been trying from her line with the concealer and the foundation. So I was like, let me try the powder in her Skin Fetish line, and I absolutely love this as well. It has such a beautiful blurring effect on the skin. When I set my under eyes and my T-zone with it, it just looks beautiful. So I absolutely love this, and I use that on the days that I'm working or when I'm going out. and I absolutely love it. So yeah, that is it, you guys. We finally finished filming this video. I've been sitting at this desk for like almost 3 hours because I was on the phone with him for like 2 hours. So I love you guys so, so much. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Follow me on my Instagram at CBW819 and check out my Poshmark at the same handle. And let me know what your favorites were this year when it comes to foundations and concealers and primers and everything like that. Bye!